Welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive on Christian's Chargers. Last episode we did a deep dive on the Miami Dolphins, which is my favorite team. If you see the video, you can see the throwback Dolphins logo right here, the jersey behind me, all that good stuff. But today is not about Miami. Today is about the Chargers. And Christian, you want to give your spiel?
Yeah, the Chargers, you can argue maybe one of the top quarterbacks in the league right now. I feel like you can't hate this team. You only can like this team. I feel like there's not too many haters unless, of course, the Chiefs and maybe the Raiders, maybe you can say have a little bad blood with us. But other than that, I think, after we have this talk, you kind of see where we lie, I guess, with the Chargers. But I'm very excited for this season. And only thing, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, I think we'd be number one easily in this division. But that comes with being a Chargers fan. You got to deal with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. So shall we start asking you some questions, Christian?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll start off with the first question. What do you expect from new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore coming in and taking things by the horns?
First, I am very excited for Kellen Moore to come on and be a part of this offense. And I think, honestly, who will unlock a lot of Justin Herbert. We've seen, maybe a couple of plays that we questioned during the season and seen how much we lied so much on Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So I think bringing in, Kellen Moore is just going to make these tight ends that we have already on this team that are supposed to be these great tight ends that we just hadn't seen perform yet. And I just think Donald Parham, a bunch of Chargers fans know about this guy, but he's just been hurt for, I think, 2-3 years in a row now. But he's supposed to be a good, speedy tight end, just hadn't had the time to be on the field just due to injuries. But we've seen what, Kellen Moore did with the Cowboys with tight ends and just their offense being a top 5 behind Dak Prescott. So I'm very excited to just see what we can do with Justin Herbert. And definitely, some of these draft picks that we took that y'all probably talk on and ask me a few questions, just to see what he can actually do with this offense. I've seen how much success he had with the Dallas Cowboys.
I like that, Christian. It's definitely exciting stuff for them this season, especially in terms of the new look pass game, I think. So I want to jump off that and ask you if you have someone you think Justin's going to target a lot. You think it's still Keenan Allen, or is it someone else who leads the team in receiving this year? What do you think?
Man, with receiving, my big thing with that is just one, Austin Eckler being upset. We don't know how much effect that's going to play with the offense coming in to see what he's going to get with productivity. But honestly, I'm leaning maybe towards Mike Williams leading the team if he stays healthy, just because we've seen what him and Herbert does. And we've seen with, like I said, with Dallas, them loving that deep ball so much. And Mike Williams is our deep ball guy. So if I had to pick right now, early, who would I predict to have the most receiving yards? I'm going with Mike Williams.
Okay. I don't know why I didn't expect Mike Williams there, but I can see that. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off what Chase said as well here. What role do you expect Quentin Johnson to fill in his rookie season? Do you think he'll be the third option? Do you think he might fight for some targets? Just what is your take on Quentin Johnson fitting into this new offense?
I like Quentin Johnson a lot. I looked into him more after we drafted him. Maybe wasn't a big fan, but I mean, knowing what Chargers like, it's big, tall receivers that just go up and get the ball. But we also did draft the other kid from TCU that was his teammate, and people are kind of forgetting about Jalen Guyton still being on this team. That's supposed to be our slot guy. Supposed to be real good, speedy guy, just hadn't been on the fields with kind of what I said about our tight end room, just with the injuries. But I expect him and maybe Jalen Guyton to maybe, share some of the touches in the slot and then kind of see whoever really takes that role and actually do something with it to be that number 3 that we desperately need on this team.
Fair enough.
It's always hard to get the rookies accommodated to NFL defenses. So it's hard to expect many big things, but he's in a great spot in that wide receiver room. So you can kind of just ease his way in there. I like that addition. Christian, I'm going to go with a question that I had for Brian on our last pod about the Dolphins. And we both know all of our teams are so centric around our quarterback play. If you had to pick out a player on either side of the ball that the Chargers can least afford to lose to injury besides Herbert, who would you say that is?
I'm gonna go with probably an easy answer just on my side is Derwin James. I mean, we paid this guy. He's the heart and soul in the defense. You know, we lost Drew Tranquil. We went to KC. Not very happy with his choice of going there out of all places, but losing that middle linebacker is kind of the heart and soul of our team that kind of picked up when he was hurt. Derwin James has to play this year, definitely with our defense, and just we can't stop the run. We didn't really do anything in the draft maybe to help ourselves that much. So I think Derwin James is going to have to definitely be that guy to do, everything, and that's why we pay him to be that guy.
Yeah, I agree with you all the way there with Derwin James. Christian, he's an integral part of that defense, especially if you plan on having any success against stopping the run. So my next question, of course, runs straight off of that, and I promise you I'm not picking them in this order on purpose. This is the way I wrote them down. But what did the Chargers do to address their run defense this offseason? It ranked 30 out of 32 teams last year, according to PFF's run defense grade.
The only thing we kind of did, and you take it what you want, there's a guy from Boise State we drafted. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. D-tackle. I don't know what we're really going to do with him, but honestly, a guy that people sleep on, and I've kind of looked, and this guy had to step it up with, of course, the Joey Bosa injury, is Morgan Fox. I think Morgan Fox can help the run defense, but I think St. Joseph Days, another guy we got, picked him up, but last year signed to a contract. There's just these two guys really have to perform and actually do better. Last year, I think we averaged like 5.4 yards against us in the run. You just cannot do that and expect to win games if you're allowing 5.4 yards every handoff. So I'm hoping those guys step up and just maybe our defense stays healthy, and maybe we can do some stuff with Derwin James to help that run defense too.
Gotcha. You're talking about the edge rusher out of USC, Tupeli Otu?
Yeah, and then we drafted another
Something
guy,
like
though.
that.
It was like 6th, 7th round, very late, Boise State kid, which that's why I don't have that high hope with him, just because he was a later pick. Then a guy I hadn't talked to was, of course, the Washington State linebacker, DeHaan Halen. This guy's,
Dion Henley.
I'm very, very excited to see what this guy does. So he's pretty much what we've drafted in the past at this point. Played a lot of safety. They bumped him down the linebacker, and that's where I guess we're going to try to play him. He's going to take on that Drew Tranquil role, but I think he might honestly be a better run stopper than Drew Tranquil was. So I'm very excited to see what he brings to this team.
Cool.
Okay. I like it. We'll kind of segue off that, Christian. It sounds like you're real bullish on the line and stopping the run. So I just want to ask you, what position group is it, the D line as a whole, you feel is the weakest, and what position group do you feel is the strongest of the team?
Weakest, I'm gonna definitely go with the defensive tackles. I think that just speak for themselves. When you have ends like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, you can't say it's the D line. It's just really the interior D line is the problem with this team. And I think Brian will definitely agree with this. Our best position, surprisingly, is the cornerback room. We have to get J.C. Jackson straightened out, but we've lost so many guys in that cornerback room, and somehow we did what we did to the Dolphins. So, not just to them, but at the end of the season, we turned it on. I don't know what happened at the end of the season to Jacksonville when we couldn't get a stop, but that cornerback room very surprised me, and just I was not expecting it when J.C. Jackson went down.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Michael Davis and Asante Samuel, that's a good 1-2 punch. Even if J.C. Jackson doesn't pan out, which sucks because you guys are paying him. But, yeah, for sure. It's a good cornerback room. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Dion Henley. I was a big fan of him in the draft process, him coming out of Washington State. As you touched on, he was a former secondary player safety convert to middle linebacker and or stack linebacker some. And he has shown flashes of like really exciting athleticism that remind you of Drew Tranquil, because Tranquil also was a safety convert from Notre Dame. So I just think that's interesting parallel between the two. But do you think in Dion Henley's first season he can push Kenneth Walker for starting reps? with his rawness?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna say yes, because at this point we kind of seen what the other guy has brought to the team, and it hadn't been nothing crazy. He's maybe missed a couple plays, but I mean, later in the season he did show growth. But I just think you went and drafted this guy. Why not give him the potential to see what he's actually got and play him?
Gotcha. Do you think him being a little bit more of an undersized linebacker that will hurt him from getting on the field if you guys are struggling to stop the run?
I'm gonna say no, just because it's a passing league. So, I mean, teams are gonna run. I know they're definitely gonna run against us, but if we got a guy that can stop the pass, then he's definitely gonna be out there on the field.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
All right. Well, as you touched on, it's a passing league, so I want to ask you about your pass rushers. Do you think this is a season where you see Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa both stay healthy? If you do, which of those isn't one of those that leads the team in sacks, or do you have another guy you're high on?
Nah, I think if both of these guys stay healthy, I mean, maybe I'll lean Khalil Mack, believe it or not, just because I know Joey Bosa's younger, so he's going to maybe bring more attention to his side, is what my thought process is. So Khalil Mack can get more than one-on-ones, kind of what we brought him in for, to get those one-on-ones. And then if that happens, I think it's really whichever of these guys start off hot, then let the other guy get the one-on-one opportunities. So it's really, to me, I lean Khalil Mack, but it easily could be Joey Bosa. But I'm going to say Khalil Mack.
Okay. That kind of jarred my memory a little bit. So you do like the corner room over the edge room, man? That edge room's nasty.
Yeah, but I mean, after we seen Joey Bosa went down, it was like I said, Morgan Fox. To then Morgan Fox is good. Don't get me wrong, but
That's
our
fair.
corners, you look at them, they're just better. Like, as a player overall, their value, if we were to
Deeper.
trade them or something like that, it's just a better player.
All right. So eventually you do think Henley will beat out Murray for that starting job
I think so. I
in
think
this
this is
season?
his. Could have signed him to his 5th-year option. We didn't. We're already struggling with the run anyway. So why not let a younger guy that we drafted just see if he can even help a little bit on the run side, even if he is undersized?
Yeah. So you guys got some pieces on defense, man. It's got some really high end talent here with Bosa, Mack, getting after the quarterback, and you got a good corner room behind it with a chess piece in Derwin James and a potential second chess piece on the second level with a Dion Henley. So, are you optimistic about this defense? Are you bullish, like Chase hinted on the run defense? Is that bringing down the overall view of the defense, or are you kind of still having high expectations for this team in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Right now, my only big concern, believe it or not, is our safety room. I mean, we didn't picked up nobody. We had the guy last year retire, kind of out of the blue, young guy. Uh, can't think of his name right now. Adderley, he kind of retired, just kind of out of nowhere on us. And I mean, we've been linked. I seen, granted, it's Twitter. Take it how you want to. It's John Johnson. A lot of people have been hollering. They want this guy to come. And honestly, if we're playing Patrick Mahomes and Devontae Adams, we need a safety. We're going to get exposed a lot if we don't have somebody back there. But I'm excited to see the defense. And honestly, our corners have stepped up so much. Last year, I can see them maybe sneaking a guy back there to play safety and just see what kind of happens. But I mean, I'm excited. Definitely, if I said what we hinted on earlier, if Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa stay healthy, this defense is going to be insane. And then you have Derwin doing whatever Derwin wants to do. If he wants to play back there in the safety role, which I don't think is going to happen, I just think Derwin's going to play up on the line and cause chaos. So I'm very excited to see what happens, but it's just kind of what Brian hinted on with the whole Miami thing. This team has to stay healthy. If they're not healthy, you're not going to really see what this team is.
Sorry, I got one more question that kind of piggybacks off of what I just talked about. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask him another one here with this defense. So you guys definitely seem like you're geared up to stop the pass at a high level, which is nice considering your division with being in division with a Patrick Mahomes. But on the other side of the coin, you do have a team in the Raiders, which I envision will try to run the football. Do you think you'll have some struggles against these divisional opponents that you're clearly more talented than, but they kind of have this running-oriented offense with Denver, may potentially having Javonte Williams back, and uh, the Raiders having Josh Jacobs and more than likely a run-heavy offense?
Yeah, I'm gonna just hit on, I guess, the Raiders first. The big concern to me right now with them is the whole Josh Jacobs thing. We'll definitely save that for another pod with the whole running backs confusion and stuff. But I think if he is there, then yes, that's going to be a problem with us. Josh Jacobs kind of blew up on the scene last year, but to kind of piggyback off of that is, I mean, it's Jimmy G, so I'm not too worried about it. Just because if we start scoring how I expect us to score, Jimmy G's not
Yeah.
going to be able to keep up with us. So I'm not really worried about maybe the Raiders, but like maybe if Russell Wilson can somehow get back to what Russell Wilson is. But kind of, I thought about that the other day. And Sean Payton, believe it or not, I mean, you look at 1,000-yard rushers when he was in the Saints, there's not that many. Alvin Kamara was never that. So, I mean, I just don't know if that's going to be their game plan with Russell Wilson. I think they're going to run and do a bunch of play action stuff, but I just see, I mean, we've seen what Drew Brees did, and I guess Sean Payton may try to bring that to Russell Wilson instead of the whole deep rush. Hey, this is what's worked for me in the past. We're running some slants. So I honestly, in our division, I don't see too many teams wanting to run, and just with us being able to score at a fast pace like we can, I don't think a lot of teams are going to have a chance to do that unless it's near the end of the game, which that does concern me. But I think, first, second quarter, us actually putting up points, unless they're doing what New England does and just run the ball and try to control the game from start to finish, I'm not worried about those teams too much trying to run on us.
I think that's the brand of ball they want to play there in Vegas with Josh McDaniels running the show. But I do think you guys are properly equipped to go toe to toe with Kansas City defensively, which is a good thing. But I just something I observed was in that division, it looks like the other two teams are more geared towards running the football, especially with Russell Wilson, notoriously known for not being able to throw across the middle of the field. I would assume that they were going to have to find some way to run the football. I do think, well, I'll save that for another pod, but they'll probably add something to that run back room in Denver before it's all said and done. But Chase, you got a good question?
Yeah, man. Let's keep it. We've hit on the defense a lot, so we'll kind of keep it offensive. We've talked about Herbert in our QB rankings pod. We each three of us all had him as the highest quarterback out of all three of our teams. So obviously, we all think very highly of this guy. Do you, Christian, think that he is in position to actually compete for MVP this year? Because that's really the next step for him is the national year-long recognition. And to do that, you would think the Chargers have to compete with KC for the division. So do you think both of those things are on the table for LA this year?
I actually do, just with the addition of Kellen Moore and what we've seen with Dak Prescott being in MVP talks. I think easily Justin Herbert could be in those talks just by getting him and some of those plays thrown into our playbook. And then we have a lot of guys I think that are kind of like, this is not a prove it year, but Keenan Allen went down. Mike Williams went down. Mike Williams wasn't there for that playoff loss. We got Austin Eckler, the whole drama behind him, but we have a lot of guys that wants to prove stuff this year. So I think that's just going to help Herbert in that MVP run even more. So he's going to get an extra maybe boost out of these guys without him having to do anything. It's just going to be on their own will. And really, I guess it comes back to who that third wide receiver is. My only concern why this MVP run wouldn't happen if Quentin Johnson can't figure stuff out and then Jalen Guyton get hurt again. So I think it's just really depending, honestly, on that three wide receiver. I think you look at the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line played great last year. The running back room is good. I wish Isaiah Spiller would come on the field a little bit more so we can see what we have there. I think Kellen Moore will do that. And I just think it comes down to that number three wide receiver on offense. It's kind of the question mark for Justin Herbert and really the team.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question as well, that my next one, but I kind of add something to that, if you will. So last year, Herbert really impressed a lot of people because, like you said, things didn't go to according to script. This is, not an ideal situation for a young quarterback to have to go through, losing his top two weapons, losing his left tackle, losing, I believe, a few other pieces, auxiliary pieces on the offense, but getting hurt as well and enduring all of that and still being a productive, positive player. Do you think that he is surrounded with the right pieces to kind of take his game to the next level? That's kind of what Chase asked, but the kind of spin I'll put on it is last year he was kind of targeting, short areas of the field, and some of that might be due to receivers going down and whatnot. But do you anticipate him being able to kind of push the ball down the field a little bit more this year, kind of the way you would expect a guy that has a cannon would?
No, I hear you. I definitely, as a Charger fan, seen how we target the shorter end of the field and kind of didn't understand at that point. But I mean, I hate to beat this drum, but I'm going to go back to Kellen Moore. I just think Kellen Moore's not going to want that with this offense. I think we've seen with Dak Prescott how many times he attempted to throw the ball and what he was doing with, Michael Gallup, and for a short period of time, Amari Cooper, and definitely with CeeDee Lamb. These guys were going deep. And you can say what you want about Dak Prescott. He surprised a lot of people, I think, with those deep balls that he was hitting with that kind of offense they were running. So I just think with our weapons, I'm not going to say a lot better, but definitely I'd say our two is definitely better than what Dallas had there. So with, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and definitely I think Quentin Johnson, if we can maybe figure out, I've heard maybe some problems with the whole hands and catching, but he's sneaky. You see the speed. It's 4.3 or something like that. He's fast. People, I think, don't recognize that with how big this guy is. But, he's got burners, and I expect him to be maybe our in the middle of the field, how did he get there guy. So, I expect very much so a good maybe 20-plus yard throws being like our basic play call. Like, hey, they're going 20 yards very soon. We don't know when, but it's coming.
Yeah, I would like to see that more of the offense because, don't get me wrong, Austin Eckler has won me fantasy football championships from the receptions he gets almost every year, but with Herbert's arm talent, it's just a crime to handcuff it. And I feel like in a way it's been that way. So I'm interested to see, just like Christian said, we know the 20-yard throw is coming. It's a matter of when. So,
Yep.
I will round off. I've kind of went back and forth on a lot of my questions, but I'll tie it off with this last one. We know the AFC is loaded. Like it's night and day comparison to the NFC as far as contending like deep playoff run teams. I think we all would agree that Kansas City is probably the top dog, but they can be beat. Who besides them scares you the most? It can be Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, or a team that's like complete on the defensive side. Like Miami's got some good pieces on defense. Buffalo, their sound quarterback play. Out of all the other AFC Super Bowl hopefuls, which team scares you?
If I maybe had to really dig deep, I guess I'll do maybe two teams you can say. It'd just be, I'd lean just maybe Cincinnati and Buffalo off the top of my head because they both have quarterbacks that can keep up with us. I think worst case scenario, if our defense doesn't, go how I'm hoping it goes and we get to the playoffs, it's going to be kind of like it was last year. It's going to be shootouts. And I don't want to run into maybe, a Joe Burrow coming in there hot or maybe a Josh Allen. And then that's what we're having to do, a shootout in the playoffs. So that's just, I think the team's made for that, but I don't want to see that to kind of be what we have to run into in the playoffs.
I got you. Yeah, against those quarterbacks, that's a dangerous game. I kind of figured you would say that, but the AFC's just got so many guys between Trevor Lawrence and Tua and Lamar and all these guys that you think can win a playoff game against a Chargers team because they're just evenly matched. So I just wanted to hear your take on which of those was the most fearsome in your eyes.
Yeah, so I got two more questions for you. The first one, What do you think about you guys' top signing this free agency class and Eric Kendricks, and what do you think he can bring to this defense?
I'm excited to see what I know he is older, but I think this is a veteran kind of. I ain't gonna say what Kyle Van Noy was, but losing a Kyle Van Noy, we hadn't really picked up a veteran to kind of lead this defense. So I think this is a perfect guy we got in Kendricks to maybe lead this team. And kind of, to be honest with you, I think he's kind of been just a forgetting piece in, the Vikings. I think he really did more for that team than what people think. And I mean, he's not bad at coverage. And honestly, I think this is a guy that can help maybe that run defense too, and maybe surprise a bunch of people just on that. I think it is a good signing. He is older, but I mean, I love the signing just because our linebacker room we've seen just has not been impressive. Other than Drew Tranquil, it just isn't. I guess you can say, I mean, comparing to other teams, it's just nothing impresses you with that room besides Drew Tranquil, but which is no longer on the team. So he had to be added. Good veteran piece, and I think somebody that can help run this defense with, these rookies that we drafted on the defensive side.
I like that. I just thought of one more, and this will be my last one for you, Christian. It's as we're recording it as of now, it is mid-July, late July, so obviously none of our team's roster is set in stone. There's still going to be moving parts. Is there a position or a certain player that you think your guys will bring in to help? It can even be just a depth piece, which is most likely the case at this stage in the season. But what position or what player do you think that's not on the team now has a good chance of being on by the end of the year?
I'm going to go back with the whole John Johnson at safety. I think just, that's what the fan base is screaming over. And at this point, like I said, safety is our biggest hole. I wouldn't be upset with maybe bringing a Kyle Van Noy back on a cheap friendly deal to help maybe,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna say with the run defense, but somebody else we can just put on this line to maybe cause some chaos and help. I mean, you can say what you want, but Kyle Van Noy really surprised me in that playoff run and did a lot more for this team than I think he given credit for. But mainly, I'm gonna say safety is my highlight. I guess you can say we definitely somebody needs to be added to this team. If I had to pick just off the top of my mind, I'm gonna go John Johnson. So that's just who's been connected to us the most.
Okay.
Gotcha. And then the last questions. Well, it's kind of a couple questions in one, but um, do you think that the Chargers got better this offseason?
I think I'm gonna say yes, just because honestly, kind of I'm gonna go back to what I said already, beating the drum on Kellen Moore being added to the offense, getting to see Isaiah Spiller maybe in this offense. Do we know when Dallas had two running backs, they wanted both of them on the field, and Zeke and Tony Pollard. I think this would be a good year for Isaiah Spiller, to be honest, maybe an underdog on this team. And I just think getting a Quentin Johnson added to this team on the number 3 wide receiver spot, and then no big crazy signings on the defensive side, but J.C. Jackson staying healthy and trying to say he's trying to prove that he was worth that money is going to be a key piece for us this year.
Gotcha. And then to kind of tie things up here, what is your expectation for this season? What are your what's your floor and your ceiling for the Chargers season?
I mean, honestly, it's playoff or bust. I think just where we're at and where the coaching staff is, and the head coach has already been to the playoffs and kind of, I'm not going to say got embarrassed, but let what happened happen to this team. I think with Justin Herbert, with Austin Eckler on maybe his last chance on this team, if we don't pay him what he wants. So I just think with how the roster's built, with Khalil Mack getting just older, and just kind of where this team sits right now with Keenan Allen's age and just with everything like that, and you take it into thought, I think we have to make it to the second round of the playoffs, or it's just a letdown of the season. And then Justin Herbert definitely to be brought up in those talks that we've had already to be the lead of the elite quarterback, you have to get a playoff win. And that's where Justin Herbert is now. He has to get that playoff win, or his resume is still going to look good, but not having a playoff win is going to hurt that resume.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Any closing thoughts or topics to touch on before we finish up here?
I mean, I guess the only thing I could say maybe in the division is what Russell Wilson are we getting? is my maybe a little concern. I don't think a man just lose that much talent in one season. I think something's there. I don't know if it was the old head coach, the old offensive coordinator, what they had going on in Denver. But that team looked terrible. I think we all agree with that statement. It did not look good on offense at all. They have the weapons, is what blows my mind. It just didn't pan out.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I could see us definitely getting one from the Chiefs this year. I don't think that's a hot take. I think we can definitely still win. But at the end of the day, until Patrick Mahomes shows me otherwise, I see them definitely probably finishing first in the division. I'd love to see the Chargers do it, but it's just, I mean, I beat my drum last year saying that, he lost all these weapons. They're not going to be the Chiefs, and then I got proven wrong very quickly.
Turned in one of the best seasons in recent memory. But
he'll do that to you.
I'm with you, man. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, we're all excited for week 1. We know that.
Hey,
we know
man,
that.
Can't wait.
Yes, sir.
That matchup, mouth-watering. So.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, I think that concludes the pod today. I hope everyone enjoyed the deep dive into Christian's Chargers, and I know we are all looking forward to week 1, which is only a little less than 7 weeks away.
8 Sundays, baby.
7, I think. 7 weeks.
Oh.
Yep, 7
nice.
weeks.
Love it.
So Miami get their first loss, baby.
Okay. All right.